With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet. We've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Tuesday. It is the 25th of June, and today might be a slightly shorter podcast, or potentially quite a bit shorter than normal. We're going to quickly run through what happened yesterday in the Copa and in the Euros. Then we'll hit Newcastle, and then we'll have some news and gossip. But things are just a little bit fluid at the moment, so let's wait and see how we go. Let's jump straight in, though. Euro 2024. Yesterday we had two games to finish up Group B. Albania 0, Spain 1. Spain were able to rotate pretty much the entire team, and a Ferran Torres goal off a lovely assist from Dani Olmo was the difference between the two sides. Now, credit to Albania, they did work David Raya a few times, and he made two good saves and then at least one that was purely for the cameras. But Spain go through in pretty good shape. I mean, the fact that they were able to rest everybody, get Olmo minutes, get Torres minutes, that's hugely beneficial for them moving into the knockout phase. In the other game then, Croatia won, Italy won. Croatia miss a penalty. Luka Modric on 52 minutes doesn't quite put it in the corner, but Donnarumma gets there and makes a good save. 3 minutes later, the ball, I don't even think it had gone out of play. It might have even been 3 full minutes. It might have been like 2 minutes later. Ball comes back into the box. I think it's Budimir with the header. Donnarumma makes a great save and just gets really unfortunate. The ball squirms out. Modric is first onto it and he finishes well. And it's 1-0 Croatia. And at this point, it looks like Croatia are going to finish second in the group and Italy are going to finish third and potentially not qualify for the knockouts. Now, they would have had a better goal difference than Hungary, so they would have finished above them. So they really would have only needed one more team to finish worse off than them as a third place team, and they would have gotten in. But they didn't want to leave that to chance. 98 minutes, Calafiori picks the ball up, moving into as he moves into the Croatian half, drives at the heart of the defence, plays a lovely right-footed pass through the defenders to Zagadny, and Zagagny's shot is just gorgeous. Just first time, curls it round and into the top corner and gives absolutely no chance to the goalkeeper. So, Italy finish in second place, and thankfully for them, they advance as group runners-up. Croatia now have to wait and see. So we know that from Group A, Germany and Switzerland are through. Now we know that Spain and Italy are through. Hungary have 3 points as the third place team in Group A. So now with Croatia only having 2 points, Hungary only need one other team from these other groups to finish on either 2 points or 3 points and a goal difference of -4, in which case the Hungarians will be through as one of the best third place teams. Croatia they need help. So they've got 2 points. They're -3 in the goal column. They need two teams to finish worse off than that. And it could be Slovenia as one of them if they get beaten 4-0 tonight, potentially, and Serbia lose, then Croatia would have Slovenia below them. But Austria can't help them. France, Netherlands can't help them. And if Poland were to win their game tonight, they'd obviously have 3 points as well. Now, I don't expect the Poles to win. I think France will beat them quite comfortably, but Poland are a fourth-place team. It'll then come down to the Austria-Netherlands game. I think I fancy the draw on that. We'll come on to that in a sec. But I don't see anyone in Group D helping out Croatia, or, for that matter, Hungary. So Hungary, at the moment, just in terms of tonight's games, will be reliant on either England to win by any margin, or Slovenia to win and Serbia to win. Now, even if Serbia win, if Serbia win, they'll go above them. So Serbia winning is not a good result for them. They basically need England to win and Denmark to win, and just leave it at that. And then Hungary can be through. Slovenia, though, depending on the scoreline, if it's, a goal or two that they lose by, they'd actually be ahead of Croatia, which would put Croatia in serious problems for trying to get through. I think the Croatians are out, is my view on it. I think they're out, and I think they deserve to be out. They were so poor in that first game. They were really poor against Albania for the most part. I thought they played better last night, but overall, not impressed at all with the Croatians in this tournament. It could well be the last time that we see Modric, Brozovic, and these players at an international tournament. Players that have obviously had a great career at the international level, and in Modric's case, obviously at every level, because he's one of the best midfielders the game has ever had. It's just a bit sad if they go out in the group stage, but they've never really performed all that well at the Euros. They always do well at the World Cup, but never at the Euros for whatever reason. Today we have 4 games. So at 5 p.m. UK time, we have the 2 games from Group D. Now, I've no idea why they're doing Group D first and then Group C. It really does annoy me. But such is life. So at 5 p.m, we get France versus Poland. My expectation is that France win that game quite comfortably, but they're yet to score a goal from open play. So that seems less than ideal. They're yet to score a goal through one of their own players. Their only goal thus far is an own goal. So that's not good. They need Mbappe to really start performing at this competition. He had a brief moment of brilliance in the Austrian game, which led to the winner. But other than that, he wasn't particularly good in the game. And then obviously missed the Netherlands game. They really do need Ousmane Dembele to get his act together. But he's been so poor all season, I'm not sure he's capable of it at the moment. I do expect them to win. They'll advance, and they're going to be very formidable moving forward. I think they can significantly improve just by making changes from their squad into their first team. Like, Konate's a lot better than Upamecano. Camavinga's a lot better than Rabiot. And for right now, I think Barcola would make more sense in the team than Ousmane Dembele. Kingsley Coman would also make more sense than Ousmane Dembele. In the other game at 5 p.m, then the Netherlands taking on Austria. A win for the Netherlands, and they've got a chance to finish top of the group, but I expect that France will better their result, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends in a draw. If the Netherlands versus Austria ends in a draw, I actually wouldn't be at all surprised. So, should be a decent game. I think Austria have been pretty impressive in both games thus far. They look really well organised. They work really hard for each other. They've got some very talented players in that midfield group in particular. But the Netherlands are a more talented group. I think the Austrians have a coaching advantage. I would rather have Rangnick than Koeman. The Austrians might also have the advantage in the midfield, but there's no question the Dutch have the better defensive players, the better goalkeeper, I would say, and I think they're better in attack as well. So it should be an interesting game. I wouldn't be surprised at a draw, and that's probably what I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the draw. At 8 p.m. then, we get Denmark versus Serbia. Denmark obviously have drawn both games, should have beaten Slovenia, deserved to beat England. Serbia have been very, very poor, didn't really show up against England, but still almost got a draw. And I wasn't impressed by them against the Slovenians. There's a lot of talent in the squad. There's no question they've got a really, really talented group of players. But for whatever reason, it just never works at the international tournaments. They can often look great through a qualifying campaign, and then they turn up at tournaments and they just don't perform. I'm going to pick Denmark to win. I think they can match the physicality and the size and strength of the Serbians. I think they're better coached. I think they're better organised. They're more disciplined. They seem more motivated. I think the talent advantage would lean Serbia, but I'm going to pick Denmark to win. And then the other game is England versus Slovenia. Obviously, England have a huge talent advantage here, but they are managed by a Gombin, and we know that Conor Gallagher is coming. Double pivot midfield of Conor Gallagher and Declan Rice. I mean, this is Mark Noble and Jordan Henderson in midfield from 10 years ago. If England had done that, imagine the outcry. Now, don't get me wrong, they're better players than those two. I'm talking about the stylistic fit. I'm talking about the tactical discipline, the positional sense. Conor Gallagher offers nothing in a double pivot. He offers something as a 10 because of his energy and his pressing, but he's limited technically. He's not a clever player. He's not good defensively. It's just a pretty nightmarish double pivot. I don't understand it. You've got Adam Wharton right there. And how is it that Trent, who outplayed Rice significantly in the Denmark game, is the one dropping out, and yet Rice is absolutely fine to play? Been pretty clear all along, Southgate was looking to prove a point with Trent, to prove that he was smart and he was right, Trent shouldn't be in the team, and he set him up to fail. And now he's making him the scapegoat. Pretty poor management. Pretty poor management, which is what we expect from Gareth Southgate, who, lest we forget, is the England manager purely because he was cheap. He was much cheaper than going and hiring a real manager for the job. He was the under-21s manager. Now, to his credit, he did pretty well with the England under-21s. But he didn't deserve the England job. He got the under-21s job because he was a yes man. And then he got the England job because he was cheap and he's a yes man. And obviously because Big Sam got caught being corrupt. But his only stint as a club manager, Middlesbrough, 7th of June 2006 to 21st of October 2009. Middlesbrough 06-07. Middlesbrough were in the Premier League. They finished 12th. The following season, they finished 13th. The following season, they were relegated. And the following season, he got sacked in the October. Overall, he managed 151 games. He won only 45 of them, drew 43, and lost 63. He won 29.8% of his games. as Middlesbrough manager. And when we look at some of the transfers that he did, he brought Robert Huth in, couldn't get him to work. Signed Jason Ewell, well past his best. Julio Arca, talented player, but was never really going to work out there. What I do like about Julio Arca is, though, he moved over from Argentina, played for Sunderland for 6 years, then played for Borough for 7 years, and then went on and played for South Shields in the National League, like well down. And then became manager of South Shields and just seems to have loved the area. Fair play to him. I just like to move from Argentina to the coldest part of England and just decide, you know what? Yeah, this is where we're going to stay. Fair play. But yeah. Who else did we sign? Did Southgate sign? Let's see. Transfer. It said 7 million on Woodgate, signed Ali Adier, Luke Young, Mido, Gary O'Neill, currently Wolves manager, Alfonso Alves for like 8 million, and he was an enormous flop. Mohamed Shawky, don't remember him. Tunkai, he's a good player. So, like, he's being back, and yet bottom half finishes. And then that third season in the Premier League, Marvin Ems, he wasn't particularly good up there, I don't think. He stayed a long time. He'd one good season in the Championship, but he was pretty disastrous in the Premier League and pretty disastrous in every other season that he was there. 6 years at the club, 31 goals, 18 of them came in one Championship season. Didier Degarde, he was there. He stayed 3 years, but one of them was spent on loan. But a year in the Premier League, a year in the Championship, then got loaned out. Justin Hoyt signed from Arsenal. He did pretty strong right back, to be fair to him. Decent player, had a good career. David Knight, the goalkeeper, yeah. Loaned in Marlon King. Questionable move. Yeah, not great. That's Gareth Southgate's club resume. And his international resume is that he's a yes man and he's cheap. He's not cheap anymore, though. They're paying him pretty big money now, and he's still not good. Yeah. England should win this game, no question. England should win this game comfortably. If you were putting together the combined 11, it's Jan Oblak and 10 Englishmen. But, you know, if you're putting together a combined 18, to be fair, it's probably Jan Oblak and 17 Englishmen. I'm not even sure Sesko makes the bench because you've got Tony and you've got Watkins. So you probably wouldn't take Sesko. In a couple of years maybe, but not now. So yeah, France to win, Netherlands, Austria draw, Denmark to win, and England to win are my picks for today's Euros action. In the Copa America, we are finished match day 1. So Colombia beat Paraguay 2-1. Daniel Muniz of Crystal Palace opened the scoring. His teammate at club level, Jefferson Lerma, made it 2-0 on 42 minutes. And then just to keep it in the Premier League family, and indeed in a certain rivalry, Brighton's Julio Enciso pulled one back for Paraguay, but they couldn't find an equaliser, and Colombia get the win to start their tournament. And then Brazil 0, Costa Rica 0. This is a historically great result for Costa Rica. Now, it's worth noting, they had 2 shots in the game and neither of them were on target, while Brazil had 19 shots, only managed 3 on target. Brazil line up with Alisson, Danilo, Militao, Marquinhos, Arana. Guimaraes and Gomes as a midfield pairing I don't like. Rafinha, Paqueta and Rodrigo as the three behind Vinicius Jr. as the false nine. Why are you playing Vinicius Jr. as a false nine? He's the best left winger on the planet. Play him left wing. If you don't have a number 9, use Rodrigo. But you have Endrick there, you have Evan Nielsen there. I know they're very inexperienced, but they're better than this. Didn't like the setup. He brought on Endrick, Savio and Martinelli, which was the sign of a manager who doesn't really know what he's doing, just chucking players on and hoping for the best. I think it's a very talented Brazilian squad with significant flaws, one of them being I don't think the coach is all that good. But what an historic result for Costa Rica and what a poor start to the competition for Brazil. So after match day 1, Argentina top Group A with 3 points. Peru and Chile have 1 point, and Canada are on no points. In Group B, Venezuela and Mexico have 3 points. Ecuador and Jamaica have no points. Group C has Uruguay and the USA on 3 points. Panama and Bolivia on no points. And then finally, Group D has Colombia on 3 points. Brazil and Costa Rica on 1 point, and Paraguay on no points. So we have matches today, of course, carrying on. We have Peru versus Canada. That's an 11 p.m. kickoff, UK time. And then at 2 a.m., it is Chile versus Argentina. I think that's one well worth staying up for if you're not normal like myself. So I'm going to stay up and watch that. You feel free not to. I'll tell you what happened tomorrow. The rest of the games this week, there's some decent ones there. You've got Ecuador, Jamaica, that's tomorrow. Venezuela, Mexico is also tomorrow. Ecuador, Jamaica is a good chance for Ecuador to get 3 points on the board because losing to Venezuela was definitely not part of the script. And given Venezuela still have to play Jamaica, it's now quite dicey for Ecuador to get through out of this group. If they beat Mexico, they'll be fine. Panama versus the USA is on Thursday, as is Uruguay, Bolivia. Colombia, Costa Rica is Friday, as is Paraguay, Brazil, which, again, an interesting game because after Brazil showing against Costa Rica, now they have to win that game. Because if they were to draw or even lose, their last game is Colombia, which is the really hard one of the group for them. So let's just say they draw, and then let's say they play Colombia, and Colombia managed to get a draw against them. They end up on 3 points. Paraguay, if they beat Costa Rica, would have 4, and Brazil would be out. Which everybody's getting fired if that happens. I expect Brazil to win this game, though. I expect them to bounce back. They've got too much talent. But the Cup it's shaping up to be really fun. It really is. And we'll get the third round of games started on Saturday night into Sunday morning. So they'll be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They're all going to be very late kickoffs for those of us on this side of the world. And then the quarterfinals will be the 5th, 6th, and 7th. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying that so far. Enjoying the Euros much more than I thought I would. And it's nice to have football that you're not overly invested in, you know? Right, back after the break. Right, welcome back. So, as you heard at the start of this show, today we are sponsored by our friends at Sky Bet. And we have the latest information from the Sky Bet fan forum. So, obviously with the Euros ongoing, this is about the Euros. And obviously the focus is largely on England. So, which stage do you think England will reach at the Euros? 4% said not get out of the group stage. I think we can rule that out. 25% said round of 16. 52% said quarterfinals. 14% said semi-finals. 2% said final. And 3% said winner. Now, if you remember back, things were a lot more buoyant before the tournament. I think having watched the two games and obviously remembering that Gareth Southgate is in charge, people's view of the team and their hopes have been slightly dampened. For the England national team, what matters most, results or performance? 44% said results, 13% said performance, and 44% said both. I would say 100% results are all that matters. In an international tournament, results are all that matters. Which player, if any, would you drop from the England starting 11? So 1% said Bellingham, 2% said Kyle Walker. Like, he hasn't been good. He doesn't offer anything. 3% said Pickford, 3% said Guehi, which is mental, 4% said Saka, 4% said Stones, 5% said Rice, only 10% said Trippier, who's been crap in both games. 11% said Foden, who's been crap in both games. 22% said Kane. And 37% said Trent. 37% of people have no idea what they're looking at. What would you do with Trent ahead of England's next match? 56% said drop. 18% said keep him in midfield. And 26% said start him at right back. So only 26% have any earthly idea what they're talking about. Which team has started the Euros the strongest? 56% said Germany, 36% said Spain, 4% said France, and 1% each for Portugal, Netherlands, and England. It is Germany and Spain. They've been the two best teams thus far, without question. Some of the reaction here, though, is just hilarious. Like, I don't really care. Like, I would prefer England to never win anything because it's just funnier that way. With all the beating of chest and the proclamations about what a great team they have. But picking the England team from this current squad of what's available is not hard. Like picking the best balanced team to actually give you a chance to win something. Now, there's one painful decision to be made. Pickford's not a great goalkeeper, but he's the goalkeeper, so that's fine. Trent is easily England's best right back because he's the best right back in the world. That's easy. Guehi is England's best centre back. That's easy. You want a ball player at centre back, and he's more reliable and more proven than the others at the international level. So you put Stones next to Guehi. Left back should be easy. Joe Gomez had a really good season playing there. And there's no other left back available in the squad because Luke Shaw is still not ready. So why was he brought? Joe Gomez should be the left back. Trent, Guehi, Stones, Gomez. Easy. Midfield is easy. Rice, Wharton, and Bellingham in front of them. You can push Trent forward to form a midfield three, have Gomez tuck in, you defend with Guehi, Stones, and Gomez. You've got Trent, Rice, and Wharton in front. You've got two elite ball players in there, in Trent and Wharton. Then you've got Jude as your 10. You need pace in that front line. Anthony Gordon has to play. Has to. Kane is the 9. And then your tough decision. And to be fair, on current form in this tournament, it's not tough. Based on the season, the choice would be Phil Foden. Based on the tournament, and to be fair, the track records for England, the choice is Bukayo Saka. But there's no bad choice between the two of those. No bad choice at all. So you line up 4-2-3-1, but you can play it as a 3-diamond 3, and you would have ideal balance, you would have progression, you would be strong defensively, you'd have pace, you'd have goal scoring. But Gareth Southgate doesn't want any of that. Instead, he's playing an unbalanced team with no pace in it. And outside of Kane, because he's been left so isolated and Bellingham's having to drop so deep, and both wingers are starting so deep, there's no goals in the team, other than Kane. England have scored twice in this term. The first goal comes from a deflected cross that Jude Bellingham heads home. The second goal comes from a cross that deflected twice and landed in front of Harry Kane. They've created nothing. Nothing. And Southgate wants to talk about fitness levels. The man is a moron. And I do wonder. He had said, he didn't say. It was reported that he had decided after the World Cup that he was going to leave after the Euros. That was reported. And then it was walked back, and then he said he wasn't sure. And then he was linked to the United job, and by all accounts was interested, but obviously couldn't go until after the Euros. But I do wonder if the FA have just made the decision that they're just going to move on from him after this competition. And I wonder if Graham Potter has already been lined up, because there has to be a reason he hasn't taken a job yet. He's turned down Ajax, he's turned down Feyenoord, he's turned down Leicester. We don't know what else he's turned down. I wouldn't be surprised if he turned down West Ham. I wonder if Graham Potter's been lined up for the England job after the Euros. Anyway, on to a club whose manager would probably be on a short list for the FA, but I don't think he's going to take that job anytime soon. Eddie Howe at Newcastle. Now, the Toon, obviously, in the 22-23 season, outperformed expectations, finished in fourth, qualified for the Champions League, and then went into the summer, signed Yankuba Minta, super talented young player, signed Sandro Tonali, overpaid but a good player, obviously unfortunate that he ends up getting banned for most of the season for gambling. Signed Harvey Barnes, he had some injuries but I do like him. Signed Tino Livramento, love that signing. Signed Carl Heffernan, a promising Irish centre-back. Signed Travis Hernes, who I don't know, from Shrewsbury, and Alfie Harrison from Man City, who's meant to be quite good, but he's very young. And then they loaned in Lewis Hall on a loan with an obligation to buy, and they will make that one permanent this summer. Chris Wood left, Carl Darlow left, Alan St. Maximin left, Manquillo, Remy Savage, Josh Scott, and Charlie Wiggett all left on freeze. They released a whole bunch of players, including Kieran Clark and Matty Longstaff, and they loaned out a bunch of players, including Yankuba Minta, Jamal Lewis, Harrison Ashby, very talented young right back, Karan Cole, another very talented young attacking player, Egyptian by birth, but an Australian youth I think he's an Australian senior international now. He had 2 loans this past season, one to Hearts, one to Volendam. He just looks like he might be a couple of years away from being ready for Newcastle, but he does look like he's very promising. Ryan Fraser was loaned out. Cousin Jeff was loaned out. Curious to see what the Cuz does this summer. Isaac Hayden was loaned out. For the love of God, let him leave. Yeah. So they've strengthened the squad pretty well. Didn't lose anybody of real importance. I mean, St. Maximin is a show pony. Performs 1 game out of 5. They went into the season in the FA Cup. They got to the quarterfinals. They beat Sunderland. They beat Fulham. They beat Blackburn away on penalties. All 3 of those games had been away, by the way. And then they drew Man City away and lost 2-0. Very unfortunate to get all 4 FA Cup games away from home. In the EFL Cup, they did knock out Manchester City 1-0 with an Alexander Isak goal. They beat Man United 3-0 at Old Trafford with Almiron, Lewis Hall and Joe Willock scoring the goals. And then they got knocked out on penalties by Chelsea when Kieran Trippier had himself an absolute nightmare. In the Champions League, they were put into, I think, the toughest group with Dortmund, PSG and Milan. They started well. They got a draw in Milan. Then they hammered PSG 4-1 at St. James's. Almiron, Byrne, Longstaff and Schär with the goals. And they looked a certainty to go through, but they got absolutely ruined by injuries through the middle of the season. They lost at home to Dortmund 1-0. They lost away to Dortmund 2-0. They drew away with PSG. They were very unfortunate. Mbappe get that late penalty. Now, PSG deserved the draw, to be clear. PSG battered them. But at the same time, Newcastle had done really well to hold out. Had they gotten the point there, that would have put them on 6 and given them a good opportunity to go through. But they still did have an opportunity to go through, or at least qualify for the Europa League. But they lost 2-1 at home to AC Milan in the final game, having gone 1-0 up through Joelinton. Christian Pulisic equalised, and then Chukwueze scored late on to send Milan into the Europa League. So Dortmund and PSG went into the knockout phase. Obviously, Dortmund made the final. Milan went into the Europa League, and Newcastle went home. In the league, they hammered, absolutely annihilated Aston Villa 5-1 on the opening day. Tonali scored, Isak got 2, Wilson scored, and Barnes scored. Then they lost 3 in a row, but they lost to Man City away, Liverpool home, Brighton away. And you're like, you know what? That's not the worst thing. City won the league the last 3 years, so they're a really good team. Liverpool have rebuilt themselves now. Obviously, Liverpool played without Van Dijk for 70 minutes in that game, or however long it was, and scored 2 late goals. But still, Liverpool are a better team than Newcastle. Nobody was doubting that, despite the previous season's league finish. And Brighton had finished, 6th the year before, and were clearly a really good team, and obviously good on the home ground. Then, they did bounce back. They beat Brentford 1-0 at home. Then they went to Sheffield United and beat them 8-0 away. Then they beat Burnley 2-0 at home. They drew 2-2 away to West Ham. Hammered Crystal Palace 4-0 at home. Drew 2-2 away to Wolves. And then beat Arsenal 1-0 at home. So they had turned things around really nicely here. They'd gotten themselves up to 6th. And from 14th after the 3 defeats in a row. And looked like they were going to settle in for, another top 6, top 7 season. Then they lost away to Bournemouth. Then they beat Chelsea 4-1 at home. Really good performance. Then they beat Man United 1-0 at home. Then they went and got spanked 3-0 at Everton. Then they lost 4-1 at Spurs. They beat Fulham 3-0, then lost 1-0 away to Luton. Then they lost 3-1 at home to Nottingham Forest with a Chris Wood hat-trick after they'd gone 1-0 up. They lost 4-2 away to Liverpool. It should have been 7 or 8. They lost 3-2 at home to City. Then they beat Villa again. Beat them 3-1. Villa were flying at that point. Beat them 3-1 at Villa Park. Drew 4-4 at home with Luton. That's dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Worse is that they were ahead twice, then ended up 4-2 down, and then had to fight back from there. Then they went and beat Forest 3-2. They drew 2-2 at home with Bournemouth. They got hammered at the Emirates by Arsenal 4-1. They beat Wolves 3-0 at home. Then they lost Stamford Bridge 3-2. They beat West Ham at home 4-3. Another one where they had to come from behind. They were 3-1 down with 15 minutes to go, but managed to fight back and get the win. Then they drew 1-1 at home with Everton. They beat Fulham 1-0 away. They beat Spurs 4-0 at home. They lost 2-0 to the Crystal Palace super team. Then they beat Sheffield United 5-1, having gone 1-0 down. They beat Burnley 4-1 away from home. Then they drew at home with Brighton, lost away to Manchester United, and then went to Brentford and won 4-2 on the final day. So having gotten to 6th after 11 games, they never got higher than that. They never dropped out of the top half, but they did drop to 10th on 3 different occasions. They were 6th with 2 games left and ended up in 7th because of that defeat at Manchester United. And because of that defeat at Manchester United, they actually missed out on Europe, because had they finished 6th, they would have gone into the Conference League. But by finishing 7th, they put themselves in what would have been the Conference League spot, with Chelsea getting a Europa League spot, but then United won the FA Cup. So United get a Europa League spot and Newcastle get nothing. So no European football for the Toon this coming season. Now, a couple of notable things that stand out to me. One is obviously the drop-off in defence. Now, the big issue here was obviously the Sven Botman injury. So in 2022-23, Botman joins from Lille and immediately established himself as one of the best centre-backs in the league. For my money, that season, the best centre-back in the league. Newcastle were sensational defensively, only conceded 33 goals. This past season, they conceded 62 goals. Now, they had a lot of injuries, and that's something that does need to be recognised. Nick Pope only played 14 Premier League games. So when your starting goalkeeper is missing basically 2/3 of the season, that's going to be tough. Kieran Trippier fell off a cliff this year. He also had injuries. He missed 12 league games. Botman started only 15, played in only 17. That was enormous. Schär, I thought we saw signs of decline. I didn't think Dan Burn was as good as he'd been the previous year. And because he's Eddie Howe, he was reluctant to play Livramento and Lewis Hall more. And had he played them more, I think they'd have been better off. Now, the good thing for them is they've got 3/4 of their long-term defence in situ. They've got Livramento at right back, Hall at left back, and Schär as the left side centre-back. So that's really strong. But they do need to go and find a starting calibre centre-back to play next to him when he returns from injury. Ideally, you find someone that in the interim can play next to Schär while Botman is recovering. I think it's time to be looking at him. Maybe they have and I've missed it, but they need to be looking to move on from Paul Dummett, from Jamal Lascelles, and people like this who just simply aren't good enough. In midfield, Joelinton, who, he's not great, but he's important to them. He only started 14 games. Tonali, who they bet big on, only started 5 games, played in 8. I mean, that's 2/3 of their starting midfield, along with Guimaraes, who's sensational. Now, allegedly, Guimaraes' release clause has now expired and no one's triggered it, which is surprising because it did sound, for all intents and purposes, like City were going to. But now they've made the decision not to. So it looks like Bruno will stay another year on the Toon. They'll get Tonali back. If I was them, I'd be looking to buy another midfielder. I'd probably look to sell Tonali, if I'm being honest. I don't really like the fit with him and Guimaraes. Being completely honest, I just don't like the fit. I think there's too much overlap there. I think midfield is all about partnership and skill sets combining well. I like some of the depth pieces they've got, but obviously Joe Willock missed a ton of the season. He only featured in 9 games. Longstaff is decent enough, obviously. And we saw a lot of Lewis Miley, far more, I think, than was ever planned, but he showed he's a really talented young player. And I'm hoping that we see more of Elliot Anderson in the season ahead. Like, for me, I'd look to move on Tonali. I'd probably look to move on Joelinton, because I'm just not a big fan. Now, he has signed a new long-term deal, which I think they did because they didn't want to lose him for free. But for me, I'd still be looking to move him on. Even if it's in a year, keep him for a year, then move him on. But in terms of depth, they're in a really good situation with Anderson, Miley, Longstaff and Willock as a backup group of 4. If the starting 3 is Guimaraes, Tonali and Joelinton, I'm not hugely keen on it, but I can see how it will work in how Eddie Howe sets his team up. I just think they could do more. In attack, you've got Gordon, had the first good season of his career. They'll be looking for him to build on that. They'll be hoping that Harvey Barnes, who only started 6 games this season, only featured in 19, They'll be hoping that he has a bounce back year. He's capable of a lot more. They have Isak. For me, they should be keeping Minta. There's a lot of talk around Minta. For me, it's a very easy decision. You keep Minta. If you have to take a hit on PSR, you fucking do it. For the long term, you keep Minta. You go Minta, Isak, Gordon. And then for your depth, you've got Barnes can play both sides. You've got Willock can play in attack. You've got Jacob Murphy can play in attack. You've got Callum Wilson as your backup 9. And you've got the ability to go and sign the next Minta. Go and find a couple more like him that are cheap development prospects that you can bring in, and if you need to loan them out, you loan them out, but if not, you keep them on board, gradually introduce them into the group, and maybe in 2 years you've got yourself a real player. Like, I don't think they need to do a ton. I'd be looking for a new starting goalkeeper, and I'd move Pope to number 2, and then maybe Gillespie as 3. I assume Karius will leave, and I'd be moving Dubravka on. Then I'd move Trippier on, Livermeddo and Ashby at right back, Hall and maybe Jamal Lewis as the left backs, new centre back and Botman, Schär and Byrne. Byrne obviously can also cover left back, which is a big help. Midfield, you can leave for now. It's not ideal, but you can leave that midfield group of 7 and be fine with it. And then just look to add in attack. And like I say, go for somebody like... Actually, to be fair, just play Minta. Just don't even do anything. Just play Minta. Sell whoever you need to sell to be able to keep that kid. Because I do think he's got the potential next to Isak to have a rise like we saw at Gordon last year. Like, I think Newcastle are in pretty good shape. I think you go and you get 2 starters this summer, goalkeeper and starting centre-back to partner Botman, but who can partner Schär in the interim. And I don't think you need to do a whole lot more this summer. They've got a lot of depth. Got players they can bring back off loan, but again, look to move on from the likes of Trippier, who's 34 and frankly just isn't very good anymore. It was never great to begin with. Had a good spell there where he went there first, but he's always been drastically overrated. I think the Town have a lot to be hopeful for. I think there's a lot of good players there. The fact that the Gomes deal just doesn't seem to be going, that's great for them. Like, if they get to keep him, that's brilliant. You couldn't ask for a better player to build your team around. He is absolutely sensational. The lad, not this past season, but the one before when they finished 4th, he was the best player in the league up until about February. And then he got the thigh injury and he played through it, but he wasn't quite as good. But he was unbelievably good for the first 6 months of the season. Like, sensationally good. And yet, nobody was talking about it, other than me, as Footballer of the Year. Because he plays for Newcastle. It's not the done thing. You know, you have to look at Odegaard or Saka or whoever at City when he was outperforming all of them. The natural development of Livermeddo and Hall next season should see them kick on. The natural development of Gordon and hopefully Minta should see them kick on. Those 4 on the flanks could really elevate Newcastle. And no European football means they should be able to keep the squad fitter for longer and potentially force their way back into the top 4. Yeah, I'll see you after this. Right, welcome back. So, Thierry Henry is apparently in the frame to become the next manager of Wales. So at the moment, he is the French under-21 manager. He'll also manage the under-23 team at the Olympics. He has been an assistant with Belgium on 2 different occasions. He has been a head coach of senior teams twice, once at Monaco and once with Montreal Impact. At Monaco, it was a disaster. He won only 4 of 20 games and was then sacked. At Montreal, he won 9 of 29 games and was then sacked. With the French under-21s, though, he has won 4 of 6. But, I mean, look at the talent in that squad. It is absolutely disgusting how talented they are. And then with the 23s, he's won 1 of his 2 games with a draw on the other. If we look at the French under-21 squad, you've got Restes, the goalkeeper from Toulouse, is an absolute star in the making. Defensively, Malo Gusto, Castello Lekeba, Quentin Merlin is there. Ilyas Zidane is in that squad as well. That's the youngest son of Zizou, who's a 6'5" centre back, very, very talented, quite highly regarded. He's had Bradley Loco available to him, Tanguy Nianzou available to him, Magassa of Monaco available to him, Esteve of Burnley available. That's just outrageous, the defensive talent. In midfield, you've got Le Pennant, Ogachukwu, Gorna Dowett, Enzo Malo, Ishmael Takure, Warren Zaire-Emery, Habib Diarra, Lucien Agome, Andy Diouf, and Eduardo Camavinga have all been in that squad in the last couple of years. Now, I don't think Camavinga's been available to them because he's been a senior player for a few years now. But still, outrageous. And in attack, you've got Calamundo, Cherki, Barcola, El Yawahi, Jorginho Rutter, Matthias Tell, Sekou Mara, Desiree Doué, Wilson Odebert, Muhammad Ali Choi, Hugo Ekitike. It's been a few years, I think, since he was called up. It's just outrageous, the talent they have at under 21 level. And I'm looking at the squad that was called up for the 23s last time out. So Lacazette, Bade, and Mateta look like they might be the ones that are called up for... Yeah, they're the ones that have been called up for the Olympics. Bade of Sevilla, Lacazette, and Mateta, along with Ruter, El Yawahi, Odebert, Tell, Barcola, Zaire-Emery, Gusto. Crazy levels of talent. Nacho has left Real Madrid after 23 years to move to Saudi, and we'll wrap ourselves up with the gossip. Manchester United are expected to meet the 34 million release clause for Joshua Zirkzee. United are hoping to fund the move for Zirkzee by selling Mason Greenwood. United are also expected to make another move for Jared Brantwaite. Everton are close to agreeing a deal for Iliman Ndiaye from Marseille. United hope to agree a new contract with Eric Ten Hag. Why they would do that, I don't know. Ruud van Nistelrooy has held positive talks about returning to United as part of the coaching staff. Joselu is set to leave Real Madrid and move to Qatar. Chelsea lead the race to sign Marc Gui I think that's how you say it, of Barcelona. Adrian is leaving Liverpool to join Real Betis. Borussia Dortmund are interested in Archie Gray. I hope that doesn't happen. I really want him at Liverpool. Arsenal will carry out a medical assessment on Pedro Neto before deciding to make a bid. I mean, this is nonsense from Steve Kay, who, as we know, is a spoofer. There'll be no such medical assessment done because Wolves aren't going to allow that. Tottenham have begun talks with Jonathan David, who has also been linked to the move to Chelsea. Mohamed Kudus has been linked to the move away, but West Ham are yet to receive an offer. According to Pletty Goal, or Pletty Spoof, if you will, his buyout is this summer, but everybody else is reporting that it's next summer, so I think we'll go with everybody else on that one. Napoli will consider offers in the region of 85 million for Victor Osimhen. I doubt it, considering his buyout is 30 million higher than that. Aston Villa have joined Chelsea in the race to sign Max Bayer of Hoffenheim. He's really talented. Be a good fit at Villa, actually. And the Premier League has warned clubs that selling players to and from each other in order to comply with financial rules could still breach regulations about acting in good faith. And there we go. That's it for today. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.